Hello YouTubers, welcome back to the channel. Special welcome to all the new subscribers. I'm up to 270 now. I'm very pleased with that. It means that people are out there, they want to watch what I'm doing, what I'm producing and the way I'm producing it. So I'm very pleased with that, so thank you very much. What we've got for you this week is this. Now I'm going to make it out of this piece of ash. You see, it's just the top end of a tree trunk. It does look quite wet on there, but that's any surface moisture. So I've got to set that between centres. I've got a 4-prong spur on the driving end and my revolving centre on that end. And there. A little flat on there, so I'll lose that in a minute. So I'm down to taking all the rough stuff off, and what I'll do now is I'll turn that into a, what would you call it, like a small, almost like Winnie the Pooh's honey pot is the shape that I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do, start by tapering this end down. See, beautiful grain pattern running through there. It really is quite pretty. Ash is a lovely wood to work with. And we'll just put a recess in there. This bead I want at the top, on the bottom, and what I need to do now is just sort this top out. I've got that top defined on there, and what I want to do now is turn some of this away so I have a big bead on the top there. Pleased with that. Not sure what that hole is there, but that needs filling. He needs filling as well. So that's our pot turned, it's sanded. I'll sand that down to 240. Don't want to sand it much more than that because I want it too smooth, because I still want the grain to shine through on that. I've left this top because I'm going to spray this with ebonizing lacquer, and what I will do at a later date is turn that on so that the rim of this bowl is natural wood and the rest of it's shown up in the lacquer. What I want to do now is just put a band through there. So I'm going to just use my skew chisel for that. It's only done by eye. I'll go in around there somewhere. Just burn 2 lines in there, although it won't show up. It'll just give me more of an idea where they're supposed to be. And spray it with some ebonizing lacquer. That looks pretty good to me. Still see all the lines running through there. Lines of the grain coming up there, running down through there, which is what we want. Give that 10 minutes to dry off, and I'll give it another quick coat and leave it overnight. So now I'm just coming in, I'm just going to polish this ebonizing lacquer up. I'm going to use some chestnuts, I think it's burnishing cream, or burnishing lacquer, burnishing cream I think it is. Just a little bit applied on a paper towel and just wiped over, and you'll see very shortly. It does take quite a bit off. You get quite a bit off, comes off on the cloth, on the paper towel. But it does clean it up really, really well. So you just need to put a bit on the paper towel, then get a clean piece of paper towel, and then just give it a good old buffing. You can see I did take this out of the truck at one point, which was a bit of a mistake because I've got real wobble on it now. As I'm not turning anymore, it didn't really matter. It's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. You can see now I've done that, applied that on, and you can actually see my reflection in there at some point. It does bring a beautiful shine to that. Now I'm just applying some silver gilt cream, and this will just sit down into the grain, the open grain of ash. Ash is very good for this sort of thing. It does, as I say, very open grain, and it will sit down in there, and it does look very effective when it's done. So you can either put this on with the lathe stationary or with the lathe moving. I've chosen this time to put it on with the lathe spinning. Just apply it in, buff it all up. What I'm doing now, I'm just applying a little bit of finishing oil on here, and that will take all that excess gilt off. What you want to do is when you use this is rub across the grain. Don't rub with the grain. If you rub with the grain, you'll just wipe it all out. But if you go across the grain, you'll leave most of it still in there. So there we have it all done. And you'll see that silver gilt sat down in that grain and really highlights that grain. So what I'm going to do now, so if that wasn't shiny enough already, I'm now going to put some Hampshire sheen finishing polish on there. It's really shiny now. I've polished it and I've buffed it, and I've now turned it around in the chuck and ready for hollowing. Well, I've still got the centre. Because I wanted to keep that as a nice contrast between the wood and the ebonized black. I'm just going to quickly shape that round with a skew chisel. So that's all set up, so ready for hollowing. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go down through there with a large forceps bit. This will just take the bulk of the wood out through the middle. Scrape that off to clean the flutes. That should be 100mm. Hang on, I'll follow in now as far as I can with my bowl gouge, and when I can't get any further I'll swap to a hollowing tool. Pull it on quite nicely. It's about as far as I can get in there with my chisel, so I need to get in there now with and use my hollowing tool. I twisted the headstock around so it's no longer running parallel with the bed of the lathe, and that's just so it's a lot easier for me to get in there. I haven't got to worry about the tailstock getting in my way. So what I'm going for here is I want to follow the outside contour of that bowl, so I want to undercut in there, but then I want to come down and have a nice curved bottom to it. So I want to, there's a lot of wood got to come out there yet. Well, I finished hollowing in, now I've come to sanding. I'm starting off with a power sander just because I get very quick results with it. I've got 100 grit a sanding disc in there, and very shortly I'll swap over to hand sanding. I'll just move up through the grit, so I'll have 100, 120, 180, 240, 320, and then finish up with 400 grit, which will give me a very nice finish to that. So just a matter of going through with the sander now. So that's all the sanding finished, and I'm just going to go in there and just give it a quick coat of Danish oil. This really does enhance the grain of any wood you put this on. It really does. It's a base coat for underneath your sand and sealer. I'd recommend this to everybody. You can see straight away the difference that makes to that wood. It really is absolutely beautiful. That's some gorgeous grain inside of that bowl, it really is. So I'll just finish putting the Danish oil on there, then I'll put sand and sealer, and then I'll finish it off with Hampshire sheen wax. So what I intend to do now is go all the way around this, between those two lines of my Dremel, and just dimple that all the way around. This was something I came up with about 3, maybe 4 years ago, and I've had a few experiments with various things. The first time I put it on YouTube was about a year ago. I did a green vase, and I did this on it. This is about 3 times normal speed. It's a shame I couldn't do it that fast in real life, because this really is quite tedious going all around there, and it does make your wrist ache by the time you finish it. But it is quite a nice finish when it's done. That's all done. It does leave a very coarse finish. I try to be as random as possible. What I tend to try to do is do it diagonally that way. I mean, you can very faintly, but it does break it up to the eye. And if you try to do rows that way or that way, it does show up. Whereas if you try to do it that way, it does break it up. You know, I don't see it so much. It does leave a very coarse finish. So I'm going to very delicately try and sand that down. So I'm just going to try and very lightly sand that, just to get those rough bits off without actually touching either side. I should be able to do it okay. What I'm going to do is just wrap a piece of 240 Abernet around my 1/4" parting off tool, and then I can hold that very nicely and you get a nice sharp edge on there. That's lovely and smooth. Yeah. I'm going to go in with the airbrush, and I want to spray in the bottom of there. I'm using Flame as part of the intrinsic wood dyes from Hampshire sheen. I use the airbrush because I'm getting really close and really fill that in. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Just give that a few seconds to dry off, and then we're all finished. We can remove it from the chuck, and that'll be the end of it. Well, here we go, YouTubers. Another project all finished. Black, red, silver, bit of wood. Could you get anything more Christmassy? All I want is a couple of bells on it. I'd be complete. It's a lovely little project. I did when I hollowed that middle out. I've left this a little bit chunkier than I normally would. The walls were a bit thicker. Quite a bit of weight to it, but when I started hollowing that, I saw that beautiful grain inside of there. I was very tempted to turn all that black away, because if that's what's inside, it must be the same on the outside. Although saying that, I'm sure I've got plenty of other pieces of really nice grain. and I just want to do something a little bit different, a little bit colouring, a little bit texturing. Very nice. So I am very pleased with that project. It's a little bit Christmassy. I have to say that has been a very good day in my workshop. I've really enjoyed making that. When you can take a grotty old log like I started with and turn something as pretty as that, that's got to be a good day, innit? Well, thank you very much for watching. I've been Steve Howe as always, and this has been, as I say, a really good day in my workshop. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.